think is paying for that Medicaid, food stamps, and subsidized housing? What a rigged economy is about is when the middle class and working families subsidize the wealthiest family in this country because the wages they pay to their workers are too low. You know, a lot of my Republican colleagues talk about welfare abuse. Turns out the major welfare abuser is the Walton family. And I say to the Walton family, get off of welfare, pay your workers a living wage. When we talk about our economy, every month you'll see in the front pages of the paper a report from the federal government about official unemployment, which is now nationally 5%. Does anybody here believe that real unemployment in America is 5%? Well, you're right, it is not. Real unemployment is close to 10% if you include people working part-time and people who have given up looking for work. And here's something even worse, and that is the crisis in youth unemployment. Kids graduating high school today, between 17 and 20, kids are white, 33% real unemployment. Latino, 36%. African American, 51%. And if anyone here thinks that there is not a direct correlation between very high youth unemployment and the fact that we have more people in jail, 2.2 million people, than any other country, you would be mistaken. So here is another radical idea. You ready for another one? Together, we are going to be very, very smart. And we are going to invest in education and jobs. We are going to be investing in education and jobs for our young people, not jails and incarceration. So thinking big and out of the box says no. In America, we're not going to see millions of people rot away in jails. We are going to create the best educated workforce in the world. And if real unemployment is close to 10% and youth unemployment is off the charts, it seems to me to be a no-brainer that we have to create a massive federal jobs program to put our people back to work. We should be hiring teachers, not firing teachers. We need many, many hundreds of thousands of well-educated, well-trained people to work in childcare and in pre-K. A couple of days ago, I was in Flint, Michigan. You all know what's going on in Flint, Michigan. And I talked to some of the people in Flint. We had a town meeting. What I heard is literally unbelievable. It is unbelievable to hear about what is going on in an important American city in the year 2016. As I heard that discussion, what I really felt is this America? Is this the United States of America, or is this some fourth world country? We are looking at a water system which is poisoned. We are looking at a situation where children's intellectual development has been impacted, and the stories that I heard were so horrific, I don't even want to repeat them to you. I mean, they're really beyond painful about what parents are seeing in their own children. We need to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure all over America. And that means our water systems, and I understand there are places here in southern Texas where people don't even have fresh water or even electricity. We have got to rebuild our roads and bridges and wastewater plants. We should have the best rail system in the world. No more Katrinas. We have to rebuild our levees and our dams. And when we do that, we create 13 million good-paying jobs. Now when I talk about a rigged economy, and I talk about a corrupt campaign finance system, and when I talk about a broken criminal justice system, it all comes down to one story I want to tell you briefly. Last month, one of the large financial institutions in our country, Goldman Sachs. You know about Goldman Sachs. All right. They paid a $5 billion settlement to the United States government. $5 billion. Now, why did they pay that settlement? They paid that settlement because they were selling before the financial crisis worthless packages of subprime mortgage loans. So they were ripping off, they were running a fraudulent operation, and they were ripping off the American people. They paid a $5 billion fine for running a fraudulent, crooked operation. Point one. Point number two, I want to talk to you about political power and what that's about. Goldman Sachs, along with many other financial institutions, has contributed many, many millions of dollars to political candidates and also provided kind of lucrative speaking fees as well. That's political power. Point number three is what we call the revolving door. And what the revolving door means is that people come from Wall Street, they go to work for the government, and then they go back to Wall Street. In the last 20 years or so, Goldman Sachs alone has provided 2 secretaries of the Treasury and dozens of other high-ranking government officials. Point number 4 to this story, and maybe the one that makes the American people the angriest. If a person is picked up in Texas today with marijuana, that person will have a criminal record for his or her entire life. You got a criminal record for possession of marijuana, but if you are an executive on Wall Street and your greed and illegal behavior destroys the American economy and wrecks the lives of millions of people, you don't get a criminal record, you get a salary increase. We are together. We are, you know, what America is about, what we read in the school books, is equal justice under the law. And what that means is if you're poor, you break the law, you pay the price. You're rich, you break the law, you pay the price. We don't have that right now. So together, we are going to bring back economy, and if we are going to do well, we need to have the best educated workforce in the world. And all of us know that education and learning is what it means to be human. That's what we want to do. It's a good thing. And yet today, as we look around our country, we find that there are hundreds of thousands of bright and qualified young people who want to go to college but can't go to college for one reason. Their families lack the money. Now that is not only unfair to those young people, it is unfair to the future of America, because we don't know how many scientists and engineers and doctors. 50 or 60 years ago, if you had a high school degree, you were doing pretty good, and you can go out and get in most cases, a good job in the economy. Today, in many ways, a college degree is the equivalent of a high school degree 50 years ago. So what that means to me is that when we talk about public education in America, free public education, it shouldn't simply be first grade through 12th grade. It should mean that we have free tuition at public colleges and universities all over America. Now that is not a radical idea, that's a common sense idea. That's an idea that exists today in Germany, it exists in Scandinavia, it exists in other countries around the world. And I'll tell you why this idea and this concept is so important. There are kids I know in Texas right now and in Vermont, kids who are in the 4th grade and in the 6th grade. Their mom never went to college, their dad never went to college, they don't have any money. And the idea in their own minds that they could ever go to college is as relevant as whether or not they're going to go to the moon. They don't think it is possible. What we have got to do as a nation is say to all of those children, all of those parents, all of those teachers, that if that kid studies hard in school, does well in school, that kid will go to college regardless of the income of that family. And when we talk about higher education, it's also important to talk about another crisis we face, and that is that millions of people are being crushed with oppressive levels of student debt. Anybody here with student debt? All right, I have talked to people who are young and people who are not so young. We're talking people with folks with 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, 45, 80,000. I mean, I talked to a woman in Vermont. She became a doctor, $300,000 in debt. Woman in Iowa became a dentist, which we need. We need a lot of dentists, $400,000 in debt. Talked to a guy in Nevada a few months ago. Guy's 55 years of age. He has been paying his student debt for 25 years. He is more in debt today than he was when he took the damn debt out in the first place. That's right. All right. Our view has got to be that punishing people for getting an education is crazy. We want to encourage people to get an education, not punish them, and that is why we have legislation in that will substantially reduce the level of student debt. Now, people say to me, well, Bernie, you know, that's nice. You want to give free tuition, public colleges and university, you want to lower student debt. It's an expensive proposition. They're right, it is. And this is what I say in response. Number one, everybody here should know